Okay, so just remember that anything that you say in this space should be something that you're okay with other folks knowing about. And of course, be respectful that everyone has different mental health journeys that they're going on. And take care of yourself and have an open mind as we move through today's presentation. So before we touch on what the Guardian Network is and the work that we do, I think it's really important that we take a moment to understand why there is a need for programs like the Guardian Network, and why the work that we do at Agriculture Wellness Ontario is so important in supporting the farming community. So there was a survey that came out of the University of Guelph in 2016 called the National Survey on Farmer and Rancher Mental Health. This happened in 2016. They then repeated it in 2021, and actually the survey is opened again now in 2026. And the goal here was to understand where farmers are at with their mental health across the country, and a lot of farmers who filled out the survey were producing right here in Ontario. And so we found some pretty staggering statistics, and especially moving from the 2016 survey to the 2021 survey, after the COVID-19 pandemic, we really saw that farmers are struggling. So the survey revealed that 68% of farmers are more susceptible than the general non-farming population to things like chronic stress. And we know from a lot of research that chronic stress can lead to physical and mental illnesses. And 76% of farmers who filled out the survey experienced moderate or high perceived stress, which is not surprising if you're someone who's engaged in the agricultural community. You know that farming can be a really stressful profession, and we're going to talk a bit about what that might look like, but that's a really high number. We also see that in terms of managing stress, farmers are using coping mechanisms like sleeping more, avoiding others, and self-isolation, self-blame, and drinking alcohol and using substances more than we see in the general population. And one really interesting thing that came out of the survey was it was found that 40% of Canadian producers and farmers reported that they would feel uneasy or uncomfortable about seeking professional help due to stigma and what other people in their community might think. So we're also seeing a lack of trust in professional services and this idea that someone's going to judge me if they know that I'm using the support services available. We also found that 58% of farmers are meeting the classifications for anxiety or an anxiety disorder, and 35% of farmers are meeting the classifications for depression. This is very, very high relative to the general statistics that we see in non-farming populations. And we're seeing that alcohol consumption is a significant social factor, and farmers are using this to cope with difficulties. And perhaps most staggering, I think, for me working in Guardian Network as a suicide prevention program, the stats that really draw my attention is it's found that 1 in 4 farmers who filled out this survey felt that their life was not worth living, wished they were dead, or thought of taking their own life within the past 12 months. And in general, farmers are twice as likely to experience suicidal ideation, which is thoughts of suicide, relative to the general non-farming population. So we're really seeing out of these stats that farmers are struggling, and there's a need for farmer-specific agricultural-based supports that farmers feel safe and comfortable to access. In the study, we found that farmers reported that they utilize coping strategies like alcohol consumption because it allows them to set a boundary with their farm-related stressors. So consuming alcohol while at home or on the farm can be viewed as a harm reduction approach because in that short term, maybe it helps, take the edge off, feel a little bit more relaxed, like your day's a little bit more easy to manage. But at the same time, we know that in the long term, this can absolutely be a risk factor for multiple things. For example, farmers are very often operating heavy machinery, so from the safety perspective, we could see that an increased use in substance consumption would absolutely be a danger. So while farmers are using substance use as a coping strategy, it's also creating this cycle that impacts mental health and well-being. So we can think of kind of this increase in consumption of substances is being used to cope with these farm-related stressors, and maybe that's alleviating some of that stress in the short term. But in the long term, we're seeing an increase in anxiety and depression from that substance use and an increase in safety concerns. And in turn, we're seeing that that's increasing thoughts of suicide and suicidal ideation as a symptom from anxiety and depression. And the cycle continues as farmers start to experience this. They may continue to turn to or increase their use of substance use. So it's certainly a cycle that is ingrained in some farming families, and we're seeing this happen. And what we want to do is kind of approach this from each part of the cycle. So alleviating some of those stressors, implementing tools that we can use to help navigate some of that stress, implement healthy coping mechanisms, and of course, notice when farmers are in distress and ways that we can help support and bridge those farmers to support. And that's exactly where the Guardian Network comes in. So if you're not familiar with ag life, or you're not someone who is engaged in the sector, there might be some things that you maybe don't know about agriculture in terms of why it is one of the most stressful things that you can do as a livelihood. Agriculture is really interesting. It is both a career and a profession and a way of living for many people. And with it comes a lot of triumphs and joys and also a lot of stress. And one of the main things that causes agriculture and that industry to be so stressful is the idea that a lot of stuff that happens that directly impacts our work and our way of living is out of our control. So things like weather, for example, drought. We had very significant drought here in Ontario last summer. That had a huge impact on the way that farmers were able to make money and have their livelihoods and get their crops off. Things like finances, stressful no matter who you are, what you do for work, and especially in agriculture, when we see things like fluctuating commodity and market prices. Tariffs and regulations can really impact the way that farmers can do their job. That might impact productivity as well. We also see things unique to farming like family dynamics. Over 50% of farmers are actively farming with an immediate family member, and most often they're both living together on the property. So you can imagine if you're someone who's close with your family or not, that might get really difficult at times when you're very much blending and mixing family dynamics with work. Things like succession planning. So oftentimes, farmers are succeeded by their children, and that can be a really difficult thing to establish. Things like work-life balance, which is always true for folks who are in the working field. Really hard to find that balance, especially when for farmers, your work is also usually your home property. That can be difficult. And of course, things like equipment breakdown. You could do everything to service your equipment and take care of it. Sometimes things are just going to break. You might have a part that's back ordered. That can really impact things like productivity, as well as animal health. Again, you can schedule the vet to come out, make sure that your animals are vaccinated and safe. And sometimes there might just be accidents or injuries or disease that is out of our control. And this is all super stressful. I think when you put it all here on a slide, you can see that it kind of makes sense that farmers are struggling to navigate all of these really intense stressors. And sometimes we might see that pop up in mental health concerns. So with that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do at Guardian Network and how we equip our guardians to help navigate some of these mental health concerns that we're seeing in the farming community. So what we do, the Guardian Network was based off of the award-winning Sentinel program that came out of the Quebec Association for Suicide Prevention and the Union of Agricultural Producers. And the Guardian Network is a network or a community of mental health advocates with the goal of supporting Ontario's farming community. So during training, we equip Guardians with strategies and practical tools that they can keep in their mental toolbox to help them learn to identify signs of distress within farmers in their community. So what those red flags or indicators that someone might be struggling might look like, how to react to those, which looks like having productive conversations about mental health, questions you can ask, ways to establish rapport with folks who might be struggling. And then most importantly, we teach guardians how to connect those farmers who they might identify as struggling or at risk for suicide to the appropriate mental health and crisis resources. So it's kind of a threefold process. Guardians hear about us through one of our outreach techniques. They register for training, whether that's in person or virtual, as we hold both. And then they participate in training. Training is full days. It's about 7 hours. We take lots of breaks, of course. We work through modules that build on each other to really develop these skills. And then they engage in the program. I'm going to talk a bit about some of the opportunities for ongoing engagement with our volunteer program and what that looks like. So, who can be a guardian? It's pretty straightforward. Guardians are people who care about mental health, particularly in the ag community. And that means that they're people who live or work or volunteer within Ontario's agricultural community. And they want to be there as a support, whether that's for their neighbors or their farming family, maybe their coworkers or clients. We get lots of folks who are field staff or veterinarians who work with farmers every day and sometimes are in that position where they're having difficult conversations. And they just want to have the tools to know how can I navigate this and how can I help people access support. So to be a guardian, you have to be an adult, 18 years or older, and we ask that you are someone who has that regular interaction with the farming community, whether that's through living rurally or working or volunteering in the ag community. And guardians want to understand how to better support mental health within the farming community and what suicide prevention in that lens might look like. Of course, Guardian Network training is a community-based training, so it's for farmers, ag workers, their families, and field staff. It is not equipping anyone to be a therapist or a mental health counselor. It's not a professional training, so we don't ask guardians to provide follow-ups on mental health care. It's really about acting as a bridge. So we can think of someone on one side who is a farmer who's really struggling, and the guardian can be that bridge across that river to a professional support on the other side. So, why do we have guardians? I spent some time earlier explaining the struggles that we're seeing among mental health in farmers. And like I just said, we really are noticing that there's a need for people who are there in the community who understand these unique struggles to encourage access to support. And for farmers in particular, we have found that it's difficult or it might take more time to build that rapport and encourage farmers access support. We can think back to that stat of 40% of producers in Canada saying they'd feel uneasy accessing support. So when we have guardians who are embedded into the community, who can have ongoing connection with the folks that are struggling, maybe they have a personal relationship, we really see that this encourages farmers to use the support resources available. Of course, in the farming community, we see a lot of stigma. This is something that we're continuously seeing improvement on, but it's something that we at Agriculture Wellness Ontario are working to establish is that there is no shame in asking for help. We see farmers are very stoic. If you're someone who works with a farmer, knows a farmer, or you are a farmer, I'm sure this doesn't come as a surprise. Farmers have this attitude of pulling themselves up by their bootstraps and just getting it done. We want to encourage folks to access support, even though sometimes it can be difficult. And of course, there's a fear of judgment or a lack of trust in healthcare professionals. I always say that as a farmer, maybe if you have a herd of 75 dairy cows that you have to milk every single day, if you were to go to a counselor and they told you, oh, just take 2 weeks off, everything's okay. The cows have to be milked every day. You can't ask a cow to take 2 weeks off. So having supports that are actually tailored to the farming community and understand those unique stressors and that way of living can be really useful. And of course, farmers are busy, there's a lack of time there. So having support services and community members who can understand that can be really useful as well. So how do we reach people? How at the Guardian Network are we connecting folks and letting them know that this program is out there for them? We do lots of social media advertising, which has proven to be really successful. People see us, our ads pop up on Facebook, which is great. Same thing with radio advertising. And of course, a big job, part of our job here at Agriculture Wellness Ontario, and especially on the outreach team, is to attend in-person events, whether that's agricultural conferences, local fairs, annual general meetings, or agricultural trade shows. We'll set up a booth and we'll talk to folks. We have lots of cool materials that we like to hand out. Also, word of mouth has been one that I think is very underrated in terms of the Guardian Network and just how much of an impact that this has. So someone takes our training and maybe they are out in their community acting as a guardian and they tell folks that they've taken this training. We've seen that that's been really successful in getting other people in other networks interested. And we also engage in targeted promotion. So things like connecting with commodity groups, agricultural organizations, rural communities, and professional associations. So I'm very happy to say that we are just under 500 guardians. We have 496 trained guardians across the province of Ontario as of just a couple weeks ago. So after guardians take training, of course, it's very important that we don't just give these guardians their tools and then send them on their way. We want to make sure that guardians know that there is ongoing support and ways to engage in the program. So all guardians have the option for free individual counseling, completely unlimited through the Farmer Wellness Initiative. They also have access to debrief and extra support services from our manager's psychological support and education. And then that individual, her name is Bethany. She's wonderful. Bethany and I host monthly virtual Guardian Connects. And so what these are every month we have little Zoom sessions. They're open to all the trained guardians. They're completely optional. But what we do is for an hour, At the last Thursday of every month, we talk about ongoing mental health education, so maybe new things that are coming up in the field, ways to engage with folks who might be resistant to accessing support. And we talk about current stressors that might be happening in the egg community across Ontario. And most importantly, it's an opportunity for guardians to maybe see each other virtually, to connect with each other, to share experiences that they've had as they've been acting in their role as a guardian, and also to connect with Agriculture Wellness Ontario staff like myself and Bethany. And we also host conferences every year. So, usually in October of every year, we have our Guardian Network Symposium, which is completely free to attend. This is a 2 day in-person conference where guardians can connect with each other. We have some really cool panelists that come in. They can spend some time with the Agriculture Wellness Ontario staff as well. And recently we implemented regional events, which are for, we had one in Eastern Ontario, one in Western Ontario, and the same thing where guardians can spend a day engaging in some wellness activities, getting to know each other, and having that ongoing connection as well. So if you're interested in booking a training, I'm absolutely the person you should come to. We have nearly 500 trained guardians across the province of Ontario today, and we offer trainings both every month virtually. Those sessions can be found through Typeform, which is our registration platform that we use. But we will also come to you in person or host virtually closed trainings, whether that's for a group of staff for your agricultural organization, someone who's a membership of a certain commodity group. We've had Ontario Pork host uh, Guardian Network trainings, Ontario Sheep, so those commodity groups, community members, boards of directors. We had different municipalities host trainings as well. So if you're ever interested in hosting a Guardian Network training, please let us know because we would love to have you. I'm, of course, going to briefly touch on some of the other programs that we have at Agriculture Wellness Ontario. You've heard me mention a couple times now our Farmer Wellness Initiative, and this is our free ongoing counseling support for farmers, farm workers, and their families. These individuals can access unlimited, completely free mental health counseling. The line is open 24/7, 365 days a year, in English, French, and Spanish. It's also available for urgent support. So if you ever are looking to talk to someone immediately and you call this line, you can be connected with a counselor immediately for crisis or urgent support. The counselors on this line are also ag informed, which is really important. So, like I've been saying throughout today's presentation, there's lots of unique stressors and ways of living in agriculture. So, we're happy to say that the folks that you might be matched with on the line have that background and understand those unique stressors. We also have In the Know, which is our free 3 hour mental health literacy workshop. And again, it's tailored entirely with the agricultural lens. So it's designed for folks who are living and working in the ag community to increase their knowledge on mental health and learn how to encourage help-seeking behaviors among farmers who might be struggling. We have growth workshops, which is our series of shorter, more focused, practical workshops. And these are designed to provide the ag community with accessible mental health education. So, of course, not everyone has a whole day to take Guardian Network training or even a half day to take In the Know. So, these workshops are an hour or less, and they offer accessible mental health education for those folks in the industry. And we have our International Agricultural Worker Wellness Program, which is currently in its pilot phase. It's being piloted in 2 territories in Ontario right now. And the goal here is to address the very unique mental health concerns and wellness challenges that we're seeing among our temporary international ag workers in Ontario. Of course, if you have any questions about our programs, you want to know a bit more, please go to our website, agriculturewellnessontario.ca, and you can learn a bit more about what we do. If you're interested in a training, and I will say with the caveat that this program is for folks who are living in Ontario. So if you're located in Ontario, Canada, and you're interested in a training or you know someone who might be a great fit for training, we have some upcoming dates for In the Know. Those dates are there. We don't currently have our updated dates for growth workshops, but they'll be coming soon, and you can always find those on our website when they're available. And of course, for Guardian Network, which is what we've been talking about today, we have 3 sessions upcoming for virtual sessions, so you can join anywhere from the province of Ontario on April 22nd, May 20th, or June 17th. And if you're interested in registering, please go to our website, and there's a link there where you can find that registration. If you want to learn more about AgWo or promote what we do and the work that we have, We have some really cool swag, as we call it, things like stickers that have breathing exercises or wellness techniques, and of course, business cards and magnets and one-pagers that explain what we do and has that Farmer Wellness Initiative line. So if you're interested in that, connect with myself or Amelia, or you can connect with Shayla, who is our project coordinator as well, and that's her email. And of course, the easy way to get this information is also to go to our website. We're also on socials. As I said, this is one of the ways that we connect with people the most. So if you're interested in seeing what we're up to on the day to day, absolutely give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. And that's a QR code there if you want to know what we're getting up to. We're going to open the floor for questions, but I want to say thank you very much for letting us yap with you today about what we do at Agricultural Wellness Ontario and the Guardian Network. We're really proud of our program, and it's so awesome that we see so many people who also want to know what we do and what we get up to. And so thank you so much for having us. And if you have any questions, I think now would be the time.
Thank you so much, Avery. That was amazing. We did have one question in the Q&A, which I mean, we can both answer. I think you probably would know better some typical demographics of the Guardian Network, like age, gender, if there's any stats that we have to report on there.
Yeah, we have guardians of all ages, of all demographics, of all genders. I would say generally we have more female identifying guardians than male. And I think that that follows a trend of men, especially in farming, maybe not as open to help-seeking behaviors. But I'm very happy to say that actually we're seeing more and more male identifying farmers coming up for Guardian Network training, engaging in the program. We've had at least one male in every training that I've facilitated, which is awesome. In terms of age, we have guardians. I think the youngest would be around the age of 19, all the way up into their late 70s, off the top of my head. So, guardians of all kinds of different ages and coming from all different walks of life, which is really awesome because we know that support's important all across different ways of living.
Amazing. Thank you. I also wanted to address another question that we had in the chat. If this program is only available in Ontario, if there's a similar program in Saskatoon. We don't have direct links with other programs across the country. However, I'd encourage you to look at the provincial CMHA, the Canadian Mental Health Association, for any related programs in Saskatchewan. However, I will also mention the Canadian Centre for Agricultural Wellness, or CCAW. They do offer a national farmer helpline or farmer wellness helpline. So if somebody in Ontario were to call this line, it would get automatically rerouted to the Farmer Wellness Initiative that Avery spoke about. But elsewhere in the country, you can call this national line and they will give similar support. I don't know the ins and outs of it as we do the Farmer Wellness Initiative, but there is support there outside of Ontario. So I'd encourage you to look for your local organizations and also check for the national line on the Canadian Centre for Agricultural Wellness. And the last question there, Bethany's surname is Parkinson. She's pretty well known in the Ontario ag community, so you may have seen her at an event somewhere or seen her speak somewhere. So yeah, her name is Bethany Parkinson, and she's amazing. Another support, I'm interested in volunteer recruitment in rural areas. How do you find volunteers in the rural areas you support? Well, similar to how Avery mentioned in the recruitment slide, word of mouth is incredibly powerful in this community. We often get a lot of, oh, I met somebody at work, I met someone at an event, out, sorry, fly in my office. So word of mouth is very powerful. We find that that's a lot, a main way how people get referred to our services, but also with online promotion as well, with rural areas being so dispersed around the province and very far travel. Yes, I'm just looking at the question coming in as well. Yes, there's also the 988 suicide crisis hotline across Canada. Thank you for that. That's always available too for text or call at any time.
Yeah, Amelia, there's a
Yes.
question in the Q&A. How's the approach for temporary workers in agriculture and Indigenous communities? I don't know if you want to speak a little bit about IAW and how they target their promotion and speak on that a little bit. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. So the International Ag Worker Wellness Program that Avery touched upon at the end there, this is currently being piloted in Windsor, Essex, and Brant, Haldimand, Norfolk counties in Ontario. We are working on expanding this, hopefully in the coming months. So I'm so sorry. We are working on expanding this in the coming months to other areas and counties within Ontario. So you can stay up to date with that on our website, and also signing up for our newsletter. We do target this approach. We're still, as I say, in the pilot phase. So we're working with a lot of community organizations that support the international agricultural worker populations. So we're trying to find the best ways to target them. We go to a lot of community events. We also provide materials in all of the wellness packages that the workers receive upon arrival in Ontario. So when they arrive at the airport, they get handed a government funded package with snacks and support resources just to see them through their arrival. And we also are in there as well. So we have different ways of approaching. We also try to target the farm owners as well to let them know that there's support available for their workers, and to be proactive in, giving them those resources in the case that they need anything while they're here supporting our economy. Um,
Thanks, Amelia. Yeah, do any of your guardians serve remotely? So, really great question. The way the Guardian Network works is unlike some other volunteer programs, we don't ask to like track hours. There's not a certain way that someone might go about being a guardian. The idea is that you have those tools and skills and then you can utilize those if you're in a situation in the community where someone is, showing those signs of distress, or you notice that something's maybe not right, or someone tells you that they're having a hard time with their mental health. And so, definitely, in some cases, that might absolutely happen over the phone or over video. We also say to guardians, like one of the cool things about the way that it's structured and having community members who have these skills is maybe someone's maybe not so open to telling you right there face to face that they're not doing so great, but maybe they're a community member who has your number. And if you're open to that and it's within your boundaries as a guardian, really important to mention that everyone has different boundaries. And again, it's not a professional training, so it's totally up to you to know those boundaries and maintain those. But someone might call you and say, I heard that you took this training, and I'm wondering if you could tell me a bit about the supports that are available. And that's sometimes easier to do over the phone. So, totally up to the guardian how they want people to come to them, to connect to them, and how they make themselves available. But it's definitely a thing that happens. And I think it happens pretty often where people chat over the phone. Sometimes it's easier to do that via text than it is in person, for sure.
yeah, thank you. There's one more question in the chat here. Any advice for a nonprofit looking to start a volunteer program that can support farmer operations? I think
Kudos.
I think it might depend. I don't know, Avery, if you want to speak to this a bit more. I think it would depend what kind of support you're looking to provide. I mean, presumably mental health.
Yeah, I think a great starting point, a stepping stone, is knowing what's out there in your area, the resources, whether that's farmer specific or mental health specific, or if there's something that marries the two, kind of understanding what's in place and then how you can maybe collaborate, work together, or knowing if there's a gap to fill and what filling that gap might look like. So a good starting point would be having a grasp on what's available in your community already and how can we improve upon or support what's already there.
Right. We have another question here. Have any unexpected findings emerged from your outcome measurement data? Have outcomes differed from what you expected?
I think in terms of the stats that came out of the University of Guelph on the National Survey of Farming Mental Health, um, well, AGWA wasn't directly involved in that research. We do use that research to inform our findings, and I think on the individual level, farmers knew that farmers were stressed out. Family members knew that farmers were struggling. There have been lots of stories shared with me when I'm out in the world, engaging in outreach of folks who have maybe lost someone in the community to suicide or have seen those struggles firsthand. But I think across the community, actually seeing those stats tangibly putting them into the numbers and then having them, like even for us on the slides, was very jarring. And I think it's easy to think it's a one-off when it happens in your community, but to actually see it happen, even though maybe some people expected it, was certainly staggering. And I think encouraged everyone who was involved and has a stake in agricultural mental health to continue to create and support support resources for the community.
Awesome. Thank you. We've got another in the Q&A here. Could you share any of the resources that you give to guardians calls them at a time that they don't feel comfortable responding?
Sorry,
Um,
Amelia, you cut out. I'm gonna
oh,
just take a look at that. Um, yeah, so in training, we touch on this quite a bit. It's really hard for someone who is a caring and compassionate person, and they want to act as a guardian, and then also to maintain those boundaries. And it's something that we really encourage folks to understand, like what is my limit? Uh, how do I know when I'm approaching my limit? How do I make sure that I'm looking after myself? And so one of the things that we do at the beginning of training in Guardian Network is we actually do an exercise where we ask folks, how would you know when you're not doing well? And we actually give folks 5 minutes to understand and write down privately. It's totally up to them if they want to share or not. Here's when I've noticed that I'm at my limit. Maybe I start to be more irritable. Maybe I start to withdraw, things like that. So starting with that baseline understanding of here's where I actually know that I'm at my limit or I'm approaching it is a good starting point to understand how you can inform your boundaries moving forward. The other thing is it's totally up to you how you want to share that you're a guardian. Some people don't want anyone to know that they're a guardian. They have the tools that they've taken from training, but they don't actually advertise that they are a volunteer guardian. They don't share that. So some people in the community wouldn't even know. And then that way, there isn't this expectation that this person needs to be available 24/7. We would never ask that our guardians are available 24/7. The whole point of Guardian Network training is to create a healthier egg community. And guardians are a fundamental part of the egg community. So their health is just as important as those that they're trying to support. So setting those boundaries is hard. I would say it's more of understanding where your boundary is and then staying steadfast in that. And yeah, if you don't want folks to know that you're a guardian, then you absolutely don't need to share that. And that might alleviate some of that pressure as well. But it's a hard thing to carry for sure.
Thank you so much for the questions and the answers. So thoughtful. And I just slipped in the chat what you said, Avery, the question framing, how do you know when you're not doing well? I think that's such a smart way to do it and kind of like a great reflection for like all of us, just to kind of understand where our limits are and how to play within it in terms of like the volunteer sector, mental health, and the interplay between the two of them. So thank you. I have a couple other questions as well, just kind of like crowdsourced from some other folks that couldn't attend today. I'll put it in the chat. So, the mental health challenges in agriculture are well documented. You mentioned financial precarity, isolation, things like weather uncertainty. Are there emerging stressors you're seeing right now that weren't as prominent when the program launched? Or just based on the two of you, especially with their backgrounds in agriculture, having a familial background in that, do you see any trends from when you were younger until now and now being in a more professional sort of role? What have you been seeing?
Yeah, I can definitely speak on this. One thing that in every conversation pretty much that I've had, I would say in the past, I started this role in August of 2025. So since I have been in this position, and something that I'm also seeing in my own family, my own networks, that has always been true for agriculture, but I think is really prevalent right now is that shifting market prices and those changes in tariffs and things like that is really taking a toll on folks, especially because there's a lot of precarity and unknown surrounding that, which has always been the case, but it seems to be exacerbated in the last few years, few months, especially since I was a kid. Definitely, it's something that I'm seeing is coming up for folks and ways to navigate that uncertainty. I think that's the key word. We actually just recently launched a growth workshop preparing for uncertainty in agriculture. And we've had some feedback that it's really, really timely because there's a lot of things in the sector that are very uncertain among commodities and market prices. That's being tough to navigate for sure. Amelia, I don't know if you have anything to add or to share.
No, you touched on exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, I think definitely market pricing has kind of been the top thing. Also, last year there was a quite a significant drought that it affected a lot of the population. So while the trends may not, always change. I think they're always kind of there. All of the topics that Avery mentioned. I think it's important to note that these I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Avery, you summed it up very well. Thank you.
Yeah, I also another one that recently I had a conversation with a farmer about that I think is really prevalent is like the increase in technology and the way that that's being implemented in farming and farm strategies. So things like remote milking for dairy cattle. If you're not someone who's familiar with tech or maybe, AI assisted GPS in harvesters and things like that, um, some farmers I think feel really distressed about the idea of having to learn new technology, especially when we get into farmers who are maybe above the age of 50 and 60 and are trying to implement succession plans and stuff. And we have younger generations of farmers who may be more tech savvy, understand this. It's really hard for, I think, especially our older generations to keep up with the very rapidly advancing technology that we're seeing in farming. And that's really stressful, right? When you feel like you're being left behind in a sense with the way your farm is developing so rapidly, or if you can't have the productivity that neighboring farms have because you're struggling to understand or implement or afford the technology that's coming into play.
Thank you so much. That sounds like a unique one, especially hearing about AI and technology. I feel like, seldom in sort of conversations about mental health do you kind of conceptualize like technology more so like social media. And this is, I guess, maybe the first time I'm even hearing like technology as like AI or productivity kind of leading to becoming a stressor and having impacts on impacting one's mental health. So thank you so much for that insight. One question I sort of wanted to end the session with, if you could shift one thing in policy and funding or in public awareness to better support the mental health of agricultural communities, what would that be? And question for both of you.
Yeah,
Amelia, you
I
want to
mean,
start? Yeah.
sure, yeah. I guess the main thing would be the shift of the stigma. I mean, we just want people to know that it's absolutely okay to talk about this. You can still be a really successful, farmer. It doesn't take away from who you are or the work that you put in every day to your business and to the community. And that it's really a sign of strength to talk about these things rather than a sign of weakness. So really just hopefully shifting that stigma over time. I mean, it's been really positive. I started almost 2.5 years ago now, and even attending events and working in communities then compared to now, we see such a, although not 100% open, a much more open community to talk about mental health. So, the barometer's changing. People are talking about it more, but of course, it's a process and it takes time. So, I think that would probably be one of the top things that we'd like to see shift.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo Amelia exactly. We'd love to see farmers know that they don't have to go it alone, whether that's mental health concerns or, physical health concerns, that there are supports that are out there. One thing that I continuously hear in the community when we talk about the Farmer Wellness Initiative and our counseling line is people used to go, oh, like I had no idea this existed. So just increasing that awareness and then knowing that it's okay to ask for help, it's okay to use those support resources. That's what they're there for. Exactly like Amelia said, seeing that stigma be reduced, and the farmers are so gifted at accessing community and building communities. So I'd love to see that mindset shift into mental health as well, and how can we rally around folks who are struggling, not just when there's a disaster or a physical illness or an injury, but also when people are struggling with their mental health. Just would love to see that translate because farmers are so gifted at that. So that stigma is a big thing that we're fighting. And I think Amelia's right that we're seeing it really, really improve. We just want to keep that shift happening.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that brings us to the end of the presentation. I wanted to again thank Avery and Amelia for being here today, sharing their work within Agricultural Wellness Ontario and the Guardian Network. It's really remarkable stuff. And to kind of echo like what I want to say, like sort of the national trends, like while they're they look grim in terms of mental health. Like there is a lot of learning that could happen in community. And like you said, farmers are quite uh, great at that support and everything, and leveraging that to help destigmatize the sort of mental health of it all is super important. And I think the two of you, in addition to your larger team, Bethany as well, are doing amazing things. So thank you so much for joining us today. For folks that are here, thank you for joining us as well. Thank you to CART Captioning for providing CC assistance. And yeah, thank you all. A recording of this presentation will be made available on YouTube, and we'll be happy to send over the links provided by Avery and Amelia's presentation to you all in case you'd like to learn more about not just the Guardian Network, but the other initiatives that Agricultural Wellness Ontario takes a look at. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.